Iran's supreme leader warning this morning that any attack from the United States would trigger a wider regional war in the Middle East. Now, the warning comes after U.S. Central Command urged the Iranian regime to avoid live fire drills near American forces following Tehran's announcement of multi-day military exercises. In a statement, CENTCOM said, quote, any unsafe and unprofessional behavior near U.S. forces, regional partners, or commercial vessels increases risks of collision, escalation, and destabilization, adding that, quote, we will not tolerate unsafe Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps action. President Trump sharing confidence that a deal can get done, confirming that the two sides are in serious discussions, as he calls it. And joining me now is retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Rob Spalding to talk through it all. Rob, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got this threat of a regional war, right, from the Ayatollah, who was one of the most direct yet towards the U.S. at this point. What do you think the Ayatollah means by regional war? Walk us through what that means.
I don't think he really has anything in his mind at all. You know, if you remember that he had the same comments prior to Midnight Hammer that's going to spark a regional war, and was really nothing happened. Yeah, they fired some missiles, but they were all intercepted. And so I don't think they have any options here. And really, I think this is the next domino to fall after Venezuela.
And as we take a look around the globe, are we alone? Is the Supreme Leader putting other countries on notice with this besides us?
Well, the good thing to note is that the Gulf countries, which include Saudi Arabia and Jordan, have all aligned against Iran. And with the Abraham Accords, they're essentially now partnering with Israel. So I could see great collaboration between those two because they both hate Iran. And so I think Iran is isolated in the region. Their two big allies are Russia and China. They provide oil to China. They provide drones to Russia for the Ukrainian war. And I think they're isolated in their own region. And that's to the betterment of the U.S. national security.
You know, right now it seems unclear whether President Trump will use force, but of course he certainly has the assets to. An American armada led by the USS Abraham Lincoln air carrier and its thousands of troops arrived in the region this past week, and we're showing you that vessel there on the screen. The region this past week has been very busy, of course. Do you see reinforcements being potentially sent in amid the new threats, or would they be there anywhere? I don't know if you heard President Trump say this week, you know, they've got to float somewhere, may as well be in this area.
Well, I think that the U.S. forces could actually be in support of possibly an Israeli and Saudi collaboration into Iran. Things like rescue forces, things like jamming of radars. These are things that the U.S. could do without actually going into Iran. So I think there's a lot of options when you look at the allies arrayed against Iranian interests.
We've got two deadly explosions that were reported in Iran Saturday, killing at least 5 people and injuring several more. And then state television said one of those explosions was actually a gas leak, and a local report aired footage of a man in a green security force uniform being carried out on a stretcher. But, however, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard denied that a Republican Guard commander had been injured. So, you know, we're trying to make sense of it all. Why do you think it was necessary for the Revolutionary Guard to point that fact out if the explosion was identified as a gas leak?
I think you're starting to see the fracturing of the Iranian regime. We know that the Mossad works actively through proxies in Iran. They've gone after their nuclear scientists before their nuclear program. And I think as the pressure continues on the Iranian regime, you're going to continue to see these factions that try to break away and cause, you know, the downfall of the regime. And so, you know, that's what you're probably seeing is this cracking of the regime inside of Iran.
I appreciate your perspective. We covered a lot. Retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Rob Spalding, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.